The Fox Texas Trio is back to discuss my interview with former President and Republican nominee Donald Trump and a host of other topics. Rudy, there's a saying, politics is local. This year has been a little different, especially in Texas. Will the Trump factor be a deciding factor come Tuesday?
You know, Stephen, we're hearing a lot of outside voices like Donald Trump. It sounds like a old horror movie. You know, I hear voices, a lot of voices. You know, those voices both are trying, and both certainly are causing a lot of chaos. It's almost cartoon-like, which is why my word was Animaniacs. Throwback to that crazy cartoon show. Love that show. Right now, there are so many characters dropping into Texas politics, Republican and Democrat alike. It seems like several campaigns are being run by those cartoon Warner Brother siblings. You know, you just can't figure these guys out. But in reality, they're hardliners on the right and extreme progressives on the left that are trying to, what appears to be a burn it to the ground strategy, both sides. Now, I think after Tuesday, the final analysis will show that most of these runoffs were not decided by those endorsements from people like Donald Trump and Greg Abbott, but by low turnout and high turnoff caused by all the mudslinging. Steve?
Greg, this election is different, but will the outside voices overwhelm the people who actually are served in these districts for these races?
I think absolutely. I think if Speaker Phelan loses his seat, as many are predicting, the Trump intervention will have played a pivotal role. Let's face it, many of the folks voting in that part of Southeast Texas don't much care about the genuinely messy Republican intramural knife fighting at the state capitol. Their choices are pretty fundamental. Trump with all his flaws, hands down over Biden, and if the former president says Phelan's part of the problem, that's all many need to hear. Never mind that Phelan passed an abortion ban, universal carry, and the biggest property tax rebate in U.S. history. If Trump brands him a rhino in 2024, the label is likely to stick in the Lone Star State, and that's what I think.
Yeah, and I think if Dade Phelan, and I'll ask you guys, put you guys on the record in a minute, but if Phelan is ousted, then yeah, the narrative and what a rhino is, I think, changes here in the state of Texas. Now, Rudy, transitioning to the border, Trump said a lot of what you would expect him to have said in that interview, and parts that you did not hear in the interview about Venezuela and all of the sorts, but didn't offer a real plan. Now, granted, Democrats, you know, someone could say Democrats aren't offering real plans either, but will the border still be a top-of-mind issue for people when they go to the polls in November?
You know, I think in Texas, Stephen, it certainly will. The new Texas Lyceum poll that came out last week points to that. Nationally, I think it's still inflation and the economy. Those are the big concerns, and the poll's really pointing to that on the national level. But again, this presidential campaign is shaping up like a crazy cartoon. President Biden has one of the worst job approval ratings in history right now, worse than Nixon and Carter. Can you imagine that? Yet Donald Trump, according to most polls, is only tied with Biden, or has a small single-digit lead nationally. Of course, he's doing much better in Texas. Now, to quote the Animaniacs after a salty joke, good night, everybody.
Greg.
All right, well, you can't let 10 million people walk into the country without permission or vetting or tracking and not expect massive repercussions. I mean, we've reported how disturbing it is to independents and even a majority of Democrats. Now, that said, the American psyche is pretty whimsical these days, and November 5th is still 5+ months away. So assuming border crossings simmer down, it will be Team Trump's challenge to plaster the airways with images of what's taken place on Biden's watch. Remember the wall? Believe me, there are voters out there who once thought it was a preposterous, wasteful gimmick who don't think that way anymore.
Yeah, things have definitely changed. Now we're going to do some quick answers. Let's see, can we get quick answers from you guys? This question is to you both. Rudy, you first. Will Donald Trump, if he wins in November, name Ken Paxton as his AG?
Paxton has proven to be a good attack dog for the Republicans, especially their agenda, allowing hardliners on the right to ignore his misdeeds. So I wouldn't be surprised if Trump tries to nominate him. But the U.S. Senate is not the Texas Senate. A ham sandwich would have a better chance at confirmation in D.C.
Greg?
I agree completely with Rudy. No.
All right, and I gotta get you guys on the record before Tuesday on this. Will Speaker Dade Phelan keep his seat? Rudy, you first.
I think Greg and I are going to disagree with this a little bit. The team with a better turnout strategy wins. I'm going to be watching mail-in ballots.
Okay, Greg.
Rudy and Stephen, I'm afraid Phelan loses unless independents show up and Democrats cross over.
Yeah, I think Phelan may not be able to survive. We'll have to wait and see. To see this episode and any of our past ones, you can go to our station's YouTube channel.
Keep the conversation going by reaching out to us on social media.
Next week, another hot topic, same time, same place, and be sure to let us know what you think the issue is.